Hello, this is our last video for our introduction to functions, and this is going to deal with being able to tell if data represented in graphs are functions or non-functions. And we're going to look at two types of graphs. The first type are the ones where we have individual points plotted on the graph. So here's an example of those. And we're going to use something called a vertical line test to do that, because what we find out as far as the ones that are not functions is if there are more than one point where I can draw it across that are lined up on the same vertical line like this, then that means that where that spot is on the x-axis, and that would be right here at the -2, then that -2 is repeating, because if I were to draw out their coordinates, that would be -2, 1 and -2, 3, and then we can definitely see where my x values are repeating because the x values are the first values. But the easiest way to do it is just to draw your vertical line across and notice, okay, I've got two spots right here that are on the same vertical line, so that makes it not a function. Doesn't matter about the other ones, as long as I have one spot where that happens, it's not a function. If I look at the one that's over here on the function side and I draw it across, there's only one dot that I'm highlighting, my highlighter, on a vertical line. If I come down here and try it with the next set, I can see the same thing happening. Only one dot on a vertical line. My highlighter is highlighting the vertical line, so that passes my vertical line test. That one's a function. But if I come over here to look at this one, got one dot. Oh, right here I've got two dots that are going to be highlighted on the same vertical line. So because of these two right here, that's going to make the x value of, I believe it's a 3 repeat, so that's not a function. And if I go and look at my last set, I'm going to jump it up a little bit, pull down. Okay, one dot on a line, and remember it's the vertical lines that we care about. We don't care about looking horizontally, so that one passes. But every single one of these dots is on the same vertical line. Every single one is lined up. I believe that looks like that. Oh, I can't read it from here, but whatever that spot is repeating. So that's why this one is not a function. Whereas on the other side, they were all spread out vertically. So definitely this is our function side. Now that takes a look at it when there's individual points. But then we also need to look at what happens if there's not individual points, but if it's more of a line or a curve, and they may have a starting and ending point, or they may just have arrows, or it may be something like a circle where it's continuous. It doesn't really have a start or an end. So if I look at, I'm still going to use the vertical line test. If I look at here, I'm looking at where does this, and I'm going to highlight it in a different color. I'm going to say here's the start, but I'm going to look at this curve. Not bad. I'm going to say, where is that curve on here? Does that curve sort of loop back or overlap onto itself? And no, it doesn't. Everything is spread out vertically. But if I look at this one, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in blue, and the arrows actually mean it keeps going. So I'm going to draw it out like that. So far it's not on top of itself, but here I've got all these blue points on top of themselves, so that one's why that's not a function. And if I sort of do the same thing here, if I bring it down, okay, the black line never curves back on top of itself. It only ever crosses my yellow highlighter at one place at a time. But if I come across my circle, oh look, there's two spots that are crossing a highlighted line. So that's failing the vertical line test, and it does it in several places. That's just only one place, but I can also pull it over here and say, okay, it's doing it here as well. So if it's sort of one on top of the other, then it's failing my vertical line test. So that's why this side's not a function. And if I can bring it down here, Nope, this is not one on top of another. This is just sort of spread out with the slant. But if I look at this one, at the start it's good, but then after that we have a lot of spots where it's one on top of the other, directly lined up vertically. I could put a dot there because that's on the line, and one there, and then you can see that my 2 points are directly lined up vertically, one on top of the other. And the same thing applies to that one at the very, very start. If I try to make 2 little points on there instead of drawing it continuously, if I go back and say that each one of these represents a point on the line, because they do, and there's more than just what I'm showing, but I'm just going to draw a few. Those are all points on that line. When I bring over my highlighter, they're all on the same spot, and that means they fail the vertical line test. They're all sharing the same x value, and that x value is repeating. So on graphs like this, we use the vertical line test to determine if they're a function or a non-function.